full TruthBomb ZeroBull first video presentation, of which we're going to be going into two very important stories, really, that aren't really getting as much light as they should be, and the conjecture surrounding Western media coverage of the Ukraine, and the questions I'm going to be asking Barry about the no-knock raids and police brutality. Just start by saying thank you for starting to follow us. Sorry we haven't got any videos out sooner, it's just been very busy. And yeah, thanks. So if I could pass you over to Barry.
Good afternoon, y'all. How are you doing? Chris?
I'm good.
Good deal. I want to start with talking about a couple things. Like Chris said, we're going to do a little focus here on some primary information that is offhand that we can address momentarily about the Ukraine. I'm going to ask a few questions from the perspective, my perspective. Chris will answer a couple questions and we'll go from there. First of all, Chris, what exactly started, that you know of, that started this whole conflict in the Ukraine? What was the beginning, the thing that started it?
It started as a peaceful march. They were just basically protesting their current government, but we later found out that this was all set up from the word get-go. Masses of people turned out to these rallies, and it turned sour rapidly. There was the implementation of agents provocateurs, which just basically incited violence, and from there police used heavy brutality to dispel the crowds, and in turn the crowds turned back on police, and from there, well, I'm sure you've all seen the footage of both sides, the police and the protesters, getting shot by Ukrainian or Kiev junta, which are the Ukrainian security forces. The snipers from the rooftops were firing at police and protesters, making it look like there was firing going on from both sides, where in fact it was just firing coming from one side. And well, from there, you've seen weeks and weeks and weeks of conjecture, which the mainstream media have pretty much got it all wrong. One, primarily by saying this is all Russian doing.
Well, the mainstream media is obvious. They they tend to fuck about with everything. But I'm still trying to figure out what's okay. You've got a peaceful gathering, a march of sorts that people are they have a purpose in mind. It's turned ugly. It's obviously turned into bloodshed. What's the purpose? What are they fighting over? I mean, what's the point?
Well, from what I could look into, the key objective was to overthrow the current government, which was Viktor Yanukovych. He got replaced by Arseniy Yatsenuk, which was a coup-appointed leader, which goes against all democratic policies.
Right. Okay. So the original leader, president, leader, whatever you want to call it, of Ukraine, I keep seeing and hearing and noticing people talking about the Ukrainian army. Do they actually have an army? I mean, what's the army involved in this versus, Ukraine, Russia? Where is all this coming from?
Well, Ukraine does have their own army. what was left of it after the breakup from Crimea, which was rightfully anyway Russia's. They did hold a democratic vote for the separation of Crimea back to Russia, which is what the West does preach. From there, Ukraine lost a lot of its naval and air force power, and have been left with what's mainland army or forces within Ukraine. From what I could gather, which seems to be coming up a lot, is the fact that the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian government, which is neo-Nazi, by the way, are being funded by the IMF. There has been a money deal to pay for the I'm sorry, I'm just thinking, the gas bill that hasn't been paid, which was a Russian gas deal from Gazprom going to the Ukraine, which was a cheap deal, but obviously the Ukraine couldn't pay up. They had severe money problems. IMF steps in and promises them a $17 billion deal, but part of that deal was to get rid of all rebels within the eastern part of the country, in countries like Slavyansk, Luhansk, Odessa. These were all towns where anti-Euro rebels that didn't want anything to do with the current coup-appointed leader, Arseniy Yatsenuk. They're just stating their rights that they don't want anything to do with it. And from what the IMF are doing, they're forcing Ukraine's hand into saying, you ain't having any of this money, which is being paid in 3 stages, I believe, unless you clear all of these rebels. And so from there, you've got bloodshed on a mass scale, and this is including innocent civilians and rebels, of course.
Right. Well, ultimately, at the end of this whole thing, what actual, I don't even want to go into conjecture or guesses or anything. You made mention of the promised money that they were promised by the IMF. What other support that just through photographs and video footage and other sources can you figure that these people are getting on either side? And ultimately, whatever the whole fight is all about, what is the settlement, and is it an achievable goal for everybody included, for all parties? How is it going to end in a satisfactory manner, and what real tangible support are these people receiving?
Well, the support that the Ukrainian army are receiving is basically the full support of the West. It's a formidable force, and to be fair, the rebels, they're not getting the support that they require to actually defeat this neo-Nazi machine, because, one, Russia would have to step in to support these. I don't see any other Western countries coming in to support the rebels, and with it being on the Russian border, I can only see Russia having to play their hand in this. But as you can say, well, from what I'm saying, is the fact that Russia haven't done a damn thing yet within Ukraine. All they've done is taken back their annexed Crimea, whereas the Ukrainian army have got the full support of the West, including I'd say NATO and the U.S, and obviously from what Obama's saying, the main goal is basically to rid the dependency of Russian gas supplies in Ukraine. They want their own hand in it, which is where Hunter Biden, which has been appointed by Vice President Joe Biden, of the biggest gas company within Ukraine. So it's, yet again, the value of life is being overwhelmed by the value of money.
Wait, whoa, wait a minute. You said one name that made me scratch my head momentarily. Are you telling me that the son of the Vice President of the United States has got his little fat fingers involved in something over there? First of all, and second of all, are you really telling me at the bottom of this situation that this is all about gas and oil?
Yes. That is it. Regardless to whatever Western media are saying it is, like Russia's invading Ukraine, which is a complete farce, that is not happening. What is happening is the West is invading Ukraine. As simple as that.
Wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it? So apparently now we're down to at the bottom of this whole situation that maybe you and I need to root this out a little further, and on another segment we can take a look at exactly what the administrative White House, what their behind the back ties to this situation is, because obviously either somebody's making a power play or somebody's making a money play in an area that, quite frankly, in my opinion, we don't have any business being.
Yeah. Well, from what you can gather in the States is the fact that the American government administration is just riddled with crookedness and money. Again, we can see today what's happening through the Bow scandal, how President Obama is dealing with terrorists without Congress. Even you can see how crooked this is all playing out. I mean, Obama's breaking his own rules that he wrote up last year.
Well, those are rules that have been in place for God knows how many years. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Well, whether it's a negotiation or not, you talked about it, there was a trade involved. And when you trade human life for human life, you're paying a ransom, whether it's monetary or otherwise. And in that point, it is the otherwise. How can you place a monetary value on a human life, especially someone who is well known to be acting in an aggressive manner towards any shape, form, or fashion of peace? I don't want to take it any further than that on my side of things, because I haven't done the diligent looking into the story. As Chris said earlier, things have been just crazy busy lately with trying to dig up things that have been completely ignored. At this point in time, there's a lot of things that we really need to look into a little further on an objective side of things, and this is one. It's a situation that I think, frankly, a large part of the world that's paying attention is in shock about. I mean, how can you do that? I don't understand.
That's just it. There's going to be an end game involved. There's got to be. Otherwise, there's no point in starting a silly game like this. I mean, to be honest, I don't want to touch this story with a barge pole, because it just smells off from the get-go, you know.
Well, it definitely stinks. It's something that I can't even begin to comprehend how that whole thing would have come about, and the different aspects of the way it's turning out. Definitely, as you say, kind of like taking a side eye at looking at it, going, I ain't real sure I want to even form an opinion or say a damn word about it, because it's just something that's got a lot of holes in it that don't make any sense.
Let me just say, all governments have their intelligence, as dumb as it sounds. What their game seems to be is they want everybody who are starting to wake up and actually chase these rotten stories, they want everybody to drop the ball, because we're hunting these down now. As soon as you drop the ball and you start looking to the left instead of to the right, they're slipping something else in, somewhere else. So I can only say, look behind the scenes. Get your eyes off this story. as rotten as it is, and impeach Obama this, impeach Obama that. He should have been impeached ages ago.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a moment and turn it for just a second. How's the weather? It must not be very. It must not be very nice over there because you got a nice little backdrop there. You're chilling over there. How's the weather over there on your side of the swamp?
Hot, sticky, humid. Had a belting storm today.
Wow. Well, as far as over here, the wind's blowing like a sumbitch. It's raining like hell. There's a bunch of idiots on the road, which, that's pretty normal. Doesn't matter if it's sunshine or rain. But the best I can tell you as far as weather where you're at, go open the window, look outside. Simple as that. Open the door, step outside. If your head gets wet, fuck, it's raining. If your head gets cold, the sun's shining. If it's cold, put a coat on and take your ass back in the house. Best I can tell you. Now, I believe there were some things other subject matters that we wanted to address momentarily, and we'll get this wrapped up and get it taken care of and do what we got to do. So. Yeah.
So, do you want to go on to no-knock raids first?
I would.
I've got a long list for it. Can you just enlighten the listeners out there what the policies behind these governmental no-knock raids actually mean and stand for, and the differences in different states, obviously?
Well, they're being commonly called a no-knock raid. That's pretty much a common person's term. What it really boils down to is warrantless search and seizure based on suspicion. A few years back, if you were pulled over by an officer of the law, they couldn't search your vehicle without either A, consent, or B, a warrant, which most of the time took a long time to get. Most officers wouldn't even bring up searching your vehicle unless they had reasonable probable cause. Meaning, if your ashtray was sitting open and you had, your rolling papers and your bag of weed sitting in the ashtray, dumbass, and you get pulled over, well, there's reasonable cause, probable cause. They can see it. So they're pretty sure if that's not your only bag, you may have, a big bag of coke in the back seat, a pistol under the seat. They don't know, but they now have probable cause based on what they visually saw. But that old thing, that's all changed now. Now they can pull you over. They don't have to ask you your name. They don't have to ask you a damn thing. They can ask you to exit the vehicle, and they can proceed with their search. Now, it's gotten a little sticky in certain places. Some officers don't want to be bothered by that. Again, probable cause. If they see a reason, they feel it's necessary, fine. But other nice officers of the law tend to take their job a little too seriously, and they want to jerk you, your kids, all your shit out of your car, tear the carpet out, pull the seats out, and if they don't find anything, they don't even pat you on the back. They don't nothing. No, have a nice day. No, fuck you. No, nothing. They get back in their car. They leave. They leave all your shit up the side of the road, and you're left picking it up. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Due to the nice, simple, between the Patriot Act and the NDAA, as American citizens, and we're fucked when it comes to the police and the law. However, come out a little while back, and I did say something about it once before. I believe it's the state of Indiana. State legislature passed a law that Indiana State Police, as well as local police, are kicking up a huge fuss about. They have basically given the power back to the citizen and saying it's your right now. If an officer enters your home, attacks your person, or anything else without cause, and you feel threatened and justified, you can use necessary force to defend yourself or your neighbor against an assault by an officer. Now, when I say an assault, I'm not necessarily meaning physical. By all means, physical. If you see an officer whipping your neighbor's ass, by all means, go over there and jump on the son of a bitch. But I'm not meaning assault as in a physical, violent thing. I'm saying if you feel like you've been wronged by an officer, you have every right in this state to defend yourself within, full legal limitations. And of course, now you've got the police crying and moaning and bitching when we can't even pull a car over without fear of our life. You know what? I'm going to say this, and we're going to move on to the next one. You are an officer of the law. Your job is to uphold the law. You've taken an oath to protect and serve. What do you have to fear of an ordinary citizen not breaking the law? There is nothing to fear. Simple as that.
Yep, it sounds like militarization, if you ask me, looking at how the police are starting to show themselves these days in public.
They definitely are. Between the vehicles that they're buying or being donated, government surplus, military surplus vehicles that these law officers are putting their little SWAT team emblems on the side. That it's insane. And the days of Andy Griffith walking around with a smile on his face, no weapon, Barney with one bullet in his damn shirt pocket, are gone. Gone. No more.
So, I mean, we've got a couple more strange stories to go into, really, to do with the suspicious circumstances surrounding some pretty high-profile, what you call celebrities, maybe, that have suddenly met an early end. One of the top names surrounding one of these mysterious deaths is Tom Clancy.
Oh, Tom Clancy. Famed author. I've read a few of Tom Clancy's books. Wonderful writer. Absolutely. I'm not much of a reader. Research can be difficult for me if it's not for pictures, but be that as that may, Tom Clancy was able to sit down and write a book that could keep you looking at it from start to finish, no matter how many pages it was. However, Tom Clancy died under mysterious circumstances at the age of 66. The autopsy records, death was caused by unknown circumstances. Now, the unknown strange part of that is that everybody said he died of a heart attack. Then somebody else said something else. Then there was this other opinion about this. Ultimately, the autopsy says unknown circumstances. Well, someone with the CIA, ex-CIA agent, came out, did an interview, stated that essentially the circumstances weren't that unusual. Apparently, Tom Clancy had predicted in one of his books, which his books were technically supposed to be fiction, he had predicted the movement on the Ukraine. Doesn't that seem strange? Anyway, made all those predictions, and he comes up mysteriously dead. However, the mystery of the situation is, well, typically when there's a strange circumstances behind a death, they do an autopsy. It took the medical examiner's office 5 days to do an autopsy on Mr. Clancy's remains. This CIA person stated that it's also common knowledge to know that any plant or natural poisons typically dissipate in a body after 4 days. Now, you do your own deductions. There's just a mystery there. You know, his books read like modern day factual novels. Some of them do.
It's kind of like George Orwell on how he wrote his books in a day before technological era. He was writing about how there was going to be mass surveillance on a huge scale. This is before the days a TV was invented and before the days of the security camera was invented.
Right.
And yeah, it's written.
Well, there's just a lot of weird stuff with him. The other one that kind of ties together with that the same CIA, ex-CIA person, mind you, it's common knowledge that person is a doctor. His name is Jim Garrow. He currently works for a nonprofit organization that is funding and trying to help out in China with women and children, and he's involved in a lot of that stuff. He's, for all intents and purposes, seems to be an upstanding person and has a lot to say. Brandon Walker interviewed him about that circumstances with Andrew Breitbart and Tom Clancy. And again, Andrew Breitbart, very, very strange circumstances surrounding his death. But, again, Breitbart is well known for speaking his mind, saying what he thought, getting in the thick of it, getting in the middle of it, saying exactly how he felt, whether it was liked or disliked. And, again, witnesses that were there and saw him that night that he died said he dropped like a sack of bricks. Just plop, hit the ground. He was out for a jog. He was jogging along and just hit the ground. Autopsy report says heart attack. Who knows? What we do know is that those are two people that were involved in a lot of strange circumstances, and quite honestly, I don't think we'll ever really know the truth behind how and exactly why. Well, we pretty much know why, but how they died. It goes from that to another little-known person, a young fellow by the name of Jeff Black. He was an activist in Chicago, out for an evening jog, was found the next morning, was head bashed in. Well, you ask, how does Jeff Black and Breitbart and Clancy tie together? Well, it's quite simple. This young man was standing up trying to cause a fuss and a stir over a false flag that was supposed to be initiated for Chicago. He had told people, statements made, that Rahm Emanuel was placed in Chicago to oversee and enact and carry out this particular false flag. Some say nuclear. We don't really know.
No, I recently read about that, actually. Apparently, Mr. Obama has actually given the go-ahead for a nuclear false flag, of which I am trying to find some hard evidence. Otherwise, it's just conjecture. But it's just funny how these two things come together like this.
Correct. Well, we do know there is a large nuclear facility not far away from Chicago that is plagued, just absolutely plagued, with leaks and problems and shutdowns and cooling system problems and all this stuff, and you never hear about it. Never hear a word. Nothing. So it wouldn't be far-fetched for that power plant to have a complete failure, meltdown, and there you go. There's your all-new glowing Chicago metro area.
So here you got your false flag and an insurance job at the same time.
Absolutely.
Money over the cost of life.
And I want to address one last thing in regards to people that just somehow tend to be taken care of, if you want to put it that way. There's a couple of ladies, well-known Christian missionaries from Pennsylvania. They were missionaries to Kenya. A 79-year-old Miss Lois Anderson and her daughter, 52 years old, Zelda White. Anderson, her daughter, and Anderson's husband were in front of a church in Nairobi when a car pulled up that, again, eyewitnesses say had diplomatic plates on it, which that tells you one little crazy thing there. But they were gunned down in front of a church. The husband's wallet was full of money and all kinds of other stuff. Wallet still in his pocket, nothing disturbed. They were just subsequently murdered. The police later chased the subjects down, and they were killed by the police. But the strange part about that is Miss Lois Anderson and her daughter were doing their missionary work out of the very church that it's stated that Obama, as a child, an infant, where all of his birth records were, birth certificates, where he was given daycare. Let's put a little bit different of a kook on it. The church itself was burned down in 2008. All records were lost. The current chief of police that knew who the shooters were, he was removed from office, no longer in office anymore, subsequently died under mysterious circumstances, special circumstances, and all of the witnesses that were there and around and had anything to do with it were either removed from their public office, either voluntarily or involuntarily, and everyone since then has died.
Vanished.
These are the people that were directly involved with knowing the truth about the birth certificate, the birthplace, and
stuff happens.
Appear to have a tech issue there. Don't know what's happened there with Barry.
Keep talking.
Yeah, obviously from what Barry's been talking about there, there's some of the dark sides of the current government administration. You know, if they want to keep a lid on things, you will go missing. And there's four different subjects there where people were going to come out to the masses and basically blow the top on all of this, and then all of a sudden they've met an untimely end.
Well, one day we may never know, but one day we may know the truth behind these circumstances. If we do, obviously it's too late to do anything about it. If we don't, it'll forever be a mystery. We just need to bear in mind that these people were in the process of standing up and going to do something. I stand freely. I'll stand in the parking lot right out there and say what's on my mind. It may, you know, it may turn into something bad and it may not, but one way or another, till the day I stop talking and I breathe my last, I will be in pursuit of the truth with that man right there next to me. Chris?
That's straight. That is the truth. We are the TruthBomb ZeroBull. I hope you've all enjoyed your listening experience. I promise you these shows will get better and more in depth. And if there's anything at all that you would like to add or rectify of what's been said or spoken about today, please just drop us a message and we'll be happy to cover anything that you have to bring up. I mean, this doesn't have to be doom or gloom. As long as it's truth, zero bull, let's have a laugh one day. You got anything funny that needs to be brought up? No, I'm sure we can cover some humour. With that, I'd like to draw it to a close, and we'll look forward to having you next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. May the truth be with you.